Yeah. My wife has decided to join me in my journey, my photography journey. She wants to be a photographer, and um, she, through you and your fiance, has seen kind of what you two have together. That magic of co-working with your soon to be spouse. It's like the dream, right?
Yes, agreed.
Yeah. And she had 3 weeks off of work and was spending just a lot of time with me, and I was just doing my thing around the house, and I think she got to see that. And it
Okay.
was like once she went back to a normal job, she was like, I hate this compared to what you do.
So did this start like right after December or whatever?
Yeah. As she took her job, the first week of December,
Okay.
or not December, January.
That's
When she
cool.
took her first week in January, she was like, I don't think that I'm cut out, that I want to do this anymore. And I think that's really cool because she's already kind of an artist to begin with. She's a writer.
Oh. Okay. Oh yeah. We
She's
we
trying
had
to
heard
get
a little bit about that.
correct. She's trying to get books published. So I try to, nurture that in her. And then when she said that she wants to pick up a camera and get into that, you know,
That's awesome.
it's like, all right, now I'm going to get, the benefits of that is having your wife with you. I mean, some guys would complain about it. Some guys
I
would
would
be like,
never.
spend all the time with my wife all this time. I think a little bit differently about those things. Like, I enjoy my time with my wife, so I'm more than happy to bring her into the family business.
I would say it's nice, but she's kicked me out of the house a few times while we're working. So there is that. But let's
Yeah.
backtrack a little bit. I'd like you to introduce yourself real quick, so that way like everybody knows
Okay.
who you are and what you do.
All right. My
We'll start
name
with
is
that.
my name is James Lathrop. I'm a photographer and videographer here in Omaha, Nebraska. I work in the wedding industry and beyond.
Yes.
Anything I
Yes.
can get my hands on or anything that interests me.
Specifically chefs, apparently. That's
Yeah, I
been a
love
common
food.
occurrence.
I love food. I spent a lot of time working for a photographer and videographer and filmmaker who that was his, he specialized in food. He did commercial food photography, and then he also loved to do films and cooking shows and stuff, and brought me along for the ride. And it's something that I've always wanted to get back to, circle back around to, and I know I will. That like when I'm ready, that
Back to food.
back to food.
So do you want to tell a little bit of like how you got started into this? So you've kind of told a little bit of it, how you worked with someone else, but do you want to tell a little bit of your like origin story, I guess I should say?
Okay. Yeah, that's fun. It's a fun story. I have a broadcast degree in journalism and video production. So I was a little unsure of what I was going to do leaving high school and going into college. And I knew that I loved playing around with video cameras. The family video camera. I was doing like tape to tape editing with like the VHS players in front of the TV and stuff like that. And my dad being like, "You better put that back where you found it." Just terrified that I wasn't going to be able to like fit all the wires back where they went and stuff like that. But that just went straight into college. I took that and found that they had a TV station on campus at Iowa Western. Unfortunately, they don't have this program anymore. I'm sure the TV station runs in some capacity, but they don't have the TV program. But that gave me a platform to create videos, and that was creating videos was my class, and like learning to talk on camera.
I was gonna say, is this
Learning.
also when you were on camera?
No, that was a
Okay.
little bit later.
Okay.
That was after I graduated, but all my training uh, when I was in college has been so, like there hasn't been a piece of it that I go back and think I didn't need to do that, or I could have skipped that. Like it always comes back around. You're doing something in your life, and then you're like, oh, I remember the day that I learned this or learned how to do this. I'm so glad that, I know this. It's really an education is a gift. I'm glad that my parents were able to, give me that. But yeah, after I graduated, I went to KETV and I started as a graphic artist. And that was a lot of fun. And they would have me teleprompt the shows as well. So that was like a little TV experience. And then they said, would you like to direct? And I thought that was quite a leap from
Yeah.
a teleprompter operator
Yeah.
and graphic artist. But it was, it's all computers and buttons. It's all, it's all technical. And just getting over your nerves of the situation because, if you mess up, it's live.
Mm-hmm.
I took to that really well. I had a lot of fun doing that. And I did that for about a year and a half. And then the college got back at me and said that we need an anchor for Council Bluffs television.
Okay.
And I took the job. They wanted to pay me, get this, I think they wanted to pay me 19 grand for the year to do it. And I was like, I'll do it no less than 30. I said, we'll do 28. And I was like, whoa, okay, all right, then I'll do it.
So you know how to negotiate.
Yeah, I was already negotiating like straight out of college. I guess those college classes on getting a job and like all of that worked out too, It really helped me get my jobs. But yeah, that was a lot of fun working for Council Bluffs Television. I did a once a week show. It was like a news magazine show. You would do events around town. You would talk about new pieces of art. You would talk about new streets. You talk about changes. You'd make the city look as good as possible. You didn't have to do any like terrible, like shock news. You didn't have to knock on people's doors and ask them about like shootings and stuff like that. Like all the terrible things that a reporter has to do here in Omaha, you didn't have to do at that job. It was all just making Council Bluffs look great. So
Okay.
I took it on that because it was like, that's cush. You get your own office, you get to produce a TV show, you get to host it. How bad could it be? And then I found out that I was doing like 60, 70 hours of work a week to make it a reality. And I was staying late and it just, it was a grind to get that show.
Oh, I'm
out.
sure.
Because once again, you're like scraping the bottom of the barrel if you can't touch anything that's kind of, edgy.
So
right?
did that almost like make the transition from that to like entrepreneur easier because you were already spending countless hours like working? Because like when you transfer from like a normal 9 to 5 to an entrepreneur, you kind of go through that stage where you're like working way more than you were at your 9 to 5, and it's like almost stressful. Would you say that made it easier for you?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And especially because you're creating everything from the ground up when you do your own show, like the graphics for that show, not the open, but a lot of like the lower third graphics and stuff like that. And the way that the show was, what's the word I'm looking for?
Designed?
Structured. The way the show was really structured.
Okay.
It was really, my invention. And I just kind of based it off of everything that I had seen from that point in time in news and everything that I'd done. But they were like, it's all yours. do with it what you want as long as it's like educational and helpful and not offensive. And it went well.
Nice.
Well, but yeah, it definitely helped me start my own business because you do that from the ground up. You build your own website.
Yes.
You build your own graphics to tell people about your services and all about all that stuff. All the little intricacies that you think would be, like running a business. Can't be that hard, right? Can't be that many things.
So I feel like that's one of the things that that I like am doing the podcast for, right? Is like we obviously have experienced this and we're kind of like going through it still, even I would say. Where we're like learning that there's more and more to every part of business. But a lot of people that have already said they want to watch this is people that are just starting out and don't actually know what steps they're going to run into. So that's why we're
Right.
kind of going over like the stories of like how you started, right? So one of the things most people don't think about is that they will have to work more hours. Most people think like I'm like, for example, your wife, right?
Hmm.
She sees you getting to relax at home and kind of edit and stuff like that, but she doesn't see the like if anybody were to have started that themselves, there's countless hours that you are
Right.
putting into it to get to that point to be able to enjoy your day.
I had to tell her, I'm like, it's not like you can just hop into this, what I have going on, and we can make twice as much as well.
Oh,
To
definitely
support
not. Yes.
your end is like, we're going to have to find a way to, change the business so you can sell yourself. So, boudoir, that's something that she can do because
True.
I feel like boudoir from guys is creepy. Hot take.
There's some people out there.
Sorry guys. But yeah, there's that. There's family shoots. She wants to get into that kind of stuff.
Okay. Okay. I was gonna say you could also one of the questions that I actually got like literally an hour ago before doing this. One lady was asking how she could start shooting more weddings. She said she's only shot 3 weddings, and of those 3 weddings, they were all her friends, like very close friends.
Yes.
So she was asking how she could like branch out. I'm gonna say my strategy, but I'm sure
Okay.
you have your own. I said second shoot as much as possible. And one of the people, like a different person, actually commented and said, I can't seem to get second shooter positions because everybody wants me to have shot 5, 10, 15 weddings or whatever.
Mhm.
I feel like there's still people out there that will hire no matter what.
Right.
But I've seen assistant positions on the Facebook groups and stuff like that, second shooter positions with no experience needed. And even of the ones that do need experience, it's mostly like flash proficient. Like obviously know the settings on your camera. It's like basic stuff that you could learn just by taking photos of your dog or starting a
Right.
podcast.
Right.
But so I would say second shooter, then contracting is my thoughts because you don't have to worry about editing and you can edit and learn
Mhm.
editing at the same time, right? Well, shooting because you'd be building your portfolio off of those contracting weddings.
Right.
And then from there go into like actually trying to advertise and shoot your own weddings.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
thoughts?
I would have to agree with that completely. That would definitely be my the first, of course, is get acquainted with the scene. Go work with other photographers as second shooters. Go get contracted for other pieces of work because then you'll get feedback, and they'll talk to you a little bit about you can pick their brain about the business as well. Especially if you're
True.
second shooting, you get to spend 8 hours with this person, and you stand side by side with them all day, and you got a lot of moments to be like, hey, I've got this problem. What do you think? Or, like,
I
what
think
do
we
you
did
use
that a
for
lot too, to be fair.
Of course. Of course, yeah. We both learned, I hope, a lot of information from each other. I know I've learned a lot from you.
I know I've learned a lot from you.
And the count, if not like the weddings, the countless coffees, of course.
Yes.
But yeah, for sure. Just picking the brains of the people around you that work in this industry is first a really, really good start. And then I would say hammer in, you know, trying to, I don't want to say price yourself super duper low, but try to, swoop in there and underbid other photographers. So that's kind of how I did it.
Okay.
Is I looked out there and I looked at my level of work, and I found other photographers that did my level of work.
Okay. Yes.
So I was like, okay, so I know that this person here is already able to market and sell themselves at this price point. So what I will do is undercut it slightly because I'm just starting out, and I don't have too many clients. And then that way, you can scoop up those few people, because sometimes people will, even over a small price difference, will be like, well, that's $100 more for the bar. That's $100 more for decorations.
That's actually a very good point. Okay. Cause I would say I'm probably I would say I'm more of a stickler on like charging what you're worth, but at the same time, I've
Right.
met people that are a lot further of sticklers than I am
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah.
But I do see other people's pricing, and sometimes I actually say like, because I just going off of what you're talking about, there was a person we met with recently at coffee, um,
Mm-hmm.
and I actually had a discussion with that person about their pricing because I had noticed that he did do good work, and when I saw his pricing, it was less than half of what I charge for the same amount of hours. And I was like, that's low.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, like everybody that gets into this, right? They're trying to sell their ability to do this so that way they can do it for a living. But if you're charging too low, you would have to book way too many weddings and you don't know how to market yet.
Right.
So you would have to book so much more weddings and not have the ability to do that at the same time. So you would never be able to like catch that thing you're chasing until you charge more.
Exactly.
I've also seen on the flip side where people have upped their prices from like I've seen I'm trying to remember who it was. Someone was telling me about it. Someone local. How they were at 2,000 per wedding, they upped to 4,000 per wedding, and they actually sold more wedding packages because they were no longer in that bracket. And that's where I learned like the thing of people will always try to buy the best quality for what they can get for their best budget.
Mm-hmm.
So like if their budget is 4,000, they're willing to spend 4,000, but they want to find the best quality within that budget
Right.
versus like they would rather just get a photographer for 2,000 and then just have 2,000 left over. I guess that's the way that I've seen it. I don't know. Maybe you've seen it differently.
Well, that's something that I'd say that you'd work into as time goes on. But if you're really just starting out and you really need portfolio
yes.
work, like just, pricing yourself lower than everybody
I
is
do agree.
exactly how I did it. It's, and then you'll get more confident. And as you get more confident, you can just raise your prices right up.
Yes.
You don't have to have them low long at all. Just long enough to get enough to get people's attention, in your portfolio. Because you want to have a built out portfolio that shows your range of skills.
Sorry, I thought you were gonna keep talking. You like stopped. Sorry. Okay, back on topic. So I guess going to my next question, kind of where was your transition? Like, was there a turning point that you saw where you went from like working the job? I believe it was at the news station.
Right.
From there to starting your own photography, videography thing. What was that turning point?
The turning point was I couldn't land full-time work in television.
Okay.
It was, I want to be behind the scenes. I found out after that year at CBTV that I didn't want to be in front of the camera because it was a lot to write and produce. I'm a more technical person. I like to capture. I've gotten better at writing as time goes on, and come back around if you pay me enough. I'd probably do the show again, honestly. For
True.
the right price, Council Bluffs News will air again. What's his name? Craig Carlson, if you're watching.
Dude, I'm gonna have to find him and get him on
so
here.
Funny. Just tag him in the comments.
Like, James actually talked about you on our very first episode.
Oh my gosh. Only love for Craig. Only love. He's a good man. Sorry, I'm getting off topic.
No, you're good. You're good.
I
don't think we're gonna stay on topic very well.
So, with that part-time work, you're not able to really reach financial stability, and you find yourself doing a lot of odd and end things to pick up the slack. And I started doing wedding videos.
So you kind of like split. You split like half and half. So you were still working. Okay, got it.
I was still working for KETV for about a year, and then I was doing like 2 or 3 wedding videos a year. Whatever I could land, whatever I could record. And I basically found out that they're like, you get to do a cool news story. It's a news story that's a happy news story, and those are my favorite kind. That's why I took the job at CBTV 17, is because you do happy stories. So this was like a gold mine. And then I just, I worked towards doing that all the time. And I got picked up by iWin Exposures and worked for Brad iWin for 3 years. And that's when I got to do all the cooking shows and stuff like that.
So your first few weddings, were those your friends, or were they like you had found them on Facebook? Or
Yes, one of the first weddings I did was a was a bride that I worked with at KETV.
Okay,
She was
okay.
one of the engineers.
Got it. Okay. And then you kind of like did half and half, and then you moved to iWin Exposures.
Right.
From there, when did you leave iWin Exposures to do it full time on your own? Was there like a number of weddings you were shooting? What was your like turning?
I went back to another full-time job. I left iWin Exposures, and I just had one of those moments where I was like, I need a break from all of this. I worked for iWin Exposures for 3 years, and he wasn't able to give me a raise at the end of the third year.
Got it.
3 years to the date, I left and I went to MetLife for more than a year. But I kept, when I left that company, I had my own website all lined up. I had all my work that I had done so far on the side all lined up on the website and everything. I had my footprint on Facebook already. I was using Thumbtack to get leads.
I remember this.
Straight out of the gate, with Thumbtack. And I think this was 2018. Yeah, 2018 I did this.
Okay.
And then I did MetLife for about a year and a half, and then 2020 is when I went full time.
So, you were actually using Thumbtack when I met you. Mm-hmm. Do you want to describe what Thumbtack is for those people that don't know?
For consumers and regular folks, Thumbtack is a really, really great website for finding a pro for something. So if you need somebody like a plumber or a photographer or a handyman, somebody to install a TV, I have a whole bunch of stuff on there. I haven't really dug too far into it myself.
So basically like a local Fiverr is kind of what I'm getting at.
Yeah, it's kind of like Fiverr. It's very much kind of like Angie's List, if anybody's familiar with
That's
Angie's
better.
List.
Yep.
Yeah, it's very much like that. And then people essentially bid for the project with leads. They send you messages. I think they usually contact like 3 people or something like that, very much like Angie's List. And then, you hope that they use the app.
Yes.
Yep.
On that kind of topic of like you starting to market yourself, what was, I guess, how were you learning to market yourself? Do you know? That's probably like a hard question to remember.
You just, I would learn from seeing what other people would do.
So what were you seeing other people do at that time?
Like, market on Facebook. Well, I guess as well, when I worked for iWin Exposures, I was in charge of all of the marketing and the website.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Well. They set you up.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was doing literally everything for Brad. It was a lot. I was doing the weddings. So there's like 20 to 30 weddings a year. Yeah. But anyways, so I had that knowledge as well, I guess, already in my pocket. How to use Squarespace, how to use SEO, how to, use your Facebook page. And I was all ready looking into ads and using ads to reach a bigger audience too.
Got it. Wow. Yeah. You were put in a really good position then. I don't think, I actually didn't know that about you. So
yeah, I wasn't expecting I've ever brought that one up. To
be fair, I've never asked you that kind of question.
Right. It's never really come up. But he had me. I was at the office, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day.
Wow.
As well, that was like a part of the job. He's like, you have to be on location for office hours. So that gave me plenty of time to dink around and figure out SEO and a lot of self-learning. He was very much like, watch this YouTube video on this, and it'll give you a lot of information. And he only had to say that a couple of times about things. And if I didn't know about something, I would just watch a YouTube video and then just be ready for it.
For the record, I wish that some people that I was trying to teach about our business had maybe listened to me when I said that too.
YouTube is incredible. It is an incredible resource. If you're not using it to like learn stuff or, figure out a problem, you're wasting valuable like resources and time.
there's actually a belief that in the next, it's like 5 to 10 years, most schooling will transfer to online, as well as like YouTube being one of the number one providers. Or I think Google is starting something or something like that.
Oh yeah,
But
I bet.
it's supposed to be a big thing.
The pandemic, I'm sure, definitely got them, going for that.
Yes.
Yeah, if I were you, I would have like a whole, like one of those little rolly tables, and then you can have your board on it there, and then you can have all of your buttons. And
So
it would look like me when I was at KETV. I called myself like the octopus because there's so many computers that you have. There's one for like graphics, one for your tapes. There's one for your script and stuff like that in the program. And then like a bunch of monitors for all your sources.
So there is so much more that I want to do with this. First of all, that one light is not the only one that I have, but I had to order another softbox. So there will be another light up here.
Yeah.
As well as I do want that to be here and not way the fuck over there.
Yeah.
But I kind of just had to deal with what I had. So this is how we started the first episode.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so exciting.
I'm honestly like crazy excited because like at first, it was like just an idea that we had like talked about doing possibly if we got the studio.
Yeah.
But then I was sitting there and I was like, why do I need the studio to start? Why couldn't I just start in the basement? So bought the furniture, and just decided to start. And then, my goal is to still eventually move it to the studio if we can get a studio. But for now, I figured we could be in here and maybe it'll help people. And then literally I was just telling people about this. And then on Facebook, I have already gotten like people asking questions. So that's why I was like, dude, this is perfect.
Cool. Does it have a name?
So let me explain the backstory before I give you the name. So I was watching a video on how to start a podcast, and really all I was trying to learn, because I had like looked up how do you put a podcast on Spotify. Again, YouTube being a great resource. So I looked that up and I type it in, and then first video is how to start a podcast. I click on it. His first thing is pick a good name. Okay. And then like I'm watching this video and I click on his channel and go to his channel, and the name of his podcast was The Depot. Which it's Think Media. They're like famous on YouTube for helping people. So I go back to the same video, finish watching it, and he explains that he literally just thought of a random word and said that that was going to be the name of it because he didn't care. So then I was like, okay, well, what are we going to talk about? So I was like, we'll be talking about business, talking business, chatting business, chatting business it is. So that's the name of the podcast, Chatting Business.
Chatting Business.
It might change in the future, but for now, that's the name. Locked in. But yes, so that's the background story on that.
All right. So is it going to have then just a primarily business approach?
Yes.
Or?
So there will be, so obviously a lot of the people that I know are in the wedding industry. So for the first group or like chunk will be wedding industry. But I do plan on branching out a lot more. But then we'll have another podcast, which is the one I was telling you about that Abby needs to get you on, is about weddings specifically. So it'll be like interviewing brides, stuff like that. And I told her interview wedding vendors, similar like you, right? About like the behind the scenes on like what's really going on behind the scenes at a wedding that the bride and groom don't know about. Like, because we obviously deal with a lot of stuff that they don't know.
They have to know.
Exactly. So yeah, so that is another podcast.
It helps them. That's for sure. It's going to be so helpful to have such a podcast. And I think it's only good if it's absorbed right. But
yes,
being a wedding photographer, there were things that I didn't even think about that my wedding day was completely smooth. Everything went completely well because I'm a wedding photographer, right? Because
listen, that didn't happen.
Party foul.
Continue.
So when my wedding day came, it was just like I was completely comfortable.
That's literally how I feel about my wedding.
And that's like the comfort that most brides and grooms should have on their wedding day, that they should let all of their vendors handle, the tasks that the vendors have and more, because that's what we do is we hold doors, we carry things, we'd, take out trash. I've seen DJs do some stuff. That's for DJs. We got to hats off to the DJs because they do the most.
Yes. So I'm going to have a DJ on here actually.
Oh, good.
And he has told me some stories about like why they do the things they do. And it's actually very smart. It's all about business. So like, I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, you should tell a very specific story about you trying to help move a table.
Oh no. Okay. All right. I'll tell this story. It's okay. So this is the most horror show thing that's ever happened to me at any wedding.
For the record, I tell people this story all the time, and I'm like, don't ever move the cake table.
People know this story. There's a lot of people that know this story because I will start telling this story, and then people will say, oh yeah, Tommy Brandon told me this story. So that's kind of funny. I love it. But anyways, I was in Council Bluffs for a wedding at the Ameristar Holiday Inn hotel thing they have there. The bride, her venue got flooded. It was in downtown Omaha. I forget what venue she had, but it got flooded when we had all of that flooding around 14th Street. And so this was already like a backup scenario. Everything as far as the wedding plans had been like the apple cart had already been upended. And there was the cake. The cake got there, and I was taking pictures of it. And the mother of the bride's telling me about the cake, and she's like, "This is our second cake, actually." And I said, "I'm sorry." She's like, "Yeah."
I didn't know this part. Continue.
This is truly the icing on the cake. So she tells me that this is the second cake because the first cake that they tried to put it on a plane and bring it to Nebraska from California, which anybody in the industry knows that you can't really move a cake very much at all. I couldn't imagine, like, I don't know, what did they buy a ticket for it? Like, you can't check that. It's destroyed if they throw it, I don't even know how they got it here, but when they got here, it didn't look great, obviously. So they replaced it. They hired another person to make a cake very quickly, right before the wedding, as their venue is flooding, as all of this is going on. And there's the cake on the table. And I'm like, oh, great. So later, I know this is a very important cake. And I'm like, we got to move the cake for the cake cutting because it's pushed right up against the wall. They didn't make a space for the bride and groom. And so,
which is a common occurrence at weddings.
Yeah, a common occurrence. They put the cake up against a wall. And then if the photographer doesn't move the cake, the bride and groom cut the cake with their backsides to their entire party, which is really weird. So me and Tommy Brandon were moving the table, as we do. We pick up plenty of tables. I didn't think anything of it. It was not one table. It was two tables that were really long and skinny right next to each other. So when we picked up the tables at the same time, the legs sprawled out like Bambi on ice, and the cake went down and the tables went down and it all fell on the ground. It was all just like, it was horrible.
Can you press the yellow button for me? Or was it the blue one? Which one was the press the red one. Try the red one.
I don't know.
Oh, turn up the thing next to it.
Oh, the fader.
Yeah. Wrong one. Try the yellow one. That one. Nope. Try the blue one. It's that one.
Oh, okay.
Okay, we're good. Continue.
Yeah, it was.
The red one was like a band. The yellow one was like cheering. Welcome back. Continue. Sorry.
Is that burned in now to the sound?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, good.
I'll have to fix that later.
Yeah, everybody was like groaning. The mother of the bride was like shouting as it was happening. Oh no, don't.
Oh my gosh.
She knew that it was on two very skinny tables too as well. And it just it shook and it tumbled into a pile. And yeah, it was a really, really bad feeling. I've never ever crushed any cake or destroyed anything. Like I've tripped and, and like caused a mess sometimes in tripping myself, like you trip and you have a cup of
Yeah.
water in your hands or something at a wedding. But that was the worst of it. I've never trashed a cake.
So funny thing is that venue still puts the same 2 tables against the same wall. Yes. Yes.
Y'all are
They're
evil.
testing it. They're testing it.
Wrong.
Because I was just thinking about it as you were explaining it. We shot a wedding there not too long ago, and I remember the tables in the same spot, and I remember thinking, we're gonna have to deal with the clients having their back to us. And I was like, I'm not touching the table. I don't trust it.
Yeah.
James told me that story. But I didn't know it was at that venue. That's funny.
Right. Yeah, that was the spot.
That is hilarious. Okay, I pulled my phone out before we told that story because I have questions on here.
Ooh.
Okay. So how did you find your passion in wedding photography and videography, I should say?
Find my passion.
So like what, I guess, because, okay, I'll explain my side.
Yeah.
From my point of view, I found my passion in this because I tried other things, and I enjoy spending a day with people that it's like literally the best day of their lives. They're super excited. They're always having a good time. Normally drinking, also fun. And I get to document that. I think that's very fun. That's part of why I am passionate about the weddings.
Yeah, that's very much the answer that I I tell couples as well, is when I started doing weddings, I noticed the like I'm kind of a spiritual person, so
I've noticed.
I'm very big on energies, and there's a lot of like love and positive energy surrounded by a wedding.
Yes.
I mean, if you're talking like even past, present, and future, like spiritual level, like, can you imagine all your like ancestors that could be, potentially and, enjoying the experience as well? It's just, it can be very, very powerful. And you see it on, everybody's faces, you see it on their faces when they're like crying during the vows and stuff. And moms always be crying, but that's okay. It's electric. It was something that I immediately was like, yeah, I'm going to keep doing this because I love being around that.
So do you feel the same way about food?
Yeah, but like in a food is like tasty kind of way,
Okay.
Like good food is not like food photography food. Like the stuff.
So you snap the photo, then taste it real quick.
Well, the thing about food photography is it's all kind of like it sits out for a really long time, and the food stylists, they use little brushes and put stuff on it, and they spray water on stuff to make it look juicy, and like you don't want to eat the food that they've been playing with for an hour. It's like cold, and yeah, it's kind of like sad. Oh, food photography working around food.
Not.
It's not, like that food you can't eat. The extra food that the producer sends to you, now that's fair game.
James is like, I ruin one thing every time. So like kind of on your journey going from where you, I guess we could even go as far back as like when you were on the news and stuff like that, or working for the news channel. I always forget what it's called. It's K something.
KETV.
Thank you.
Yeah.
From
Omaha's news leader, KETV, Newswatch 7.
I like how you still have that memorized. So from there to kind of doing it full time, I guess I should say till today, have you battled with any setbacks or like specific challenges that have been really hard to overcome that you think someone else could benefit from your knowledge?
Definitely one of the biggest setbacks is when you're not just like in the black, you're in the red. When you get in the red and like financially, when you're not booking a lot of stuff and you don't have a lot of like inquiries coming in, it really messes with you kind of mentally, even though like you could be okay and you could be making through it. Like if you haven't heard from a lot of people, it can still mess with you a little bit. You can go, okay, what happened? You got to go back to your website, figure something out. Like what did I do? What did I change? Now I have to go back around and get more people to come in to ask about my services. People asking about my services, even if I'm not booking, seems to give me like, some levity. It gives me like, I don't worry about things if I get a lot of emails for some reason. It's just kind of cool.
No, that actually, I have never thought about that, but that makes so much sense because I am the same way, but I didn't realize the correlation there. Yeah, you actually just like brought that to my attention because like recently we haven't gotten an inquiry in like a week, which is not normal, I guess. We normally get like 1 to 2, especially during like the winter right now. But we haven't gotten any in like a week. And I remember just the other day I was like, did I change something on the site? Is the site still up? Like I was like trying to figure it out because I was like, this is so weird. And actually, the reason that I was thinking is the site's still up. AJ, his website was down at one point for like he doesn't even know how long. But I literally like went to go look at his site and it didn't pop up and it said that like the owner forgot to pay something, blah blah blah. So I called AJ and I was like, hey, your site says this, and he was like, oh my gosh, I forgot to pay that. They like because his card expired or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. So then like when I just this last week, I was thinking that too. I like checked my site 3 times. I was like, did my card expire? Like trying to figure out. That's so funny.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess in those situations, you would want to just do your best to try to communicate with somebody about your services, because that's at the base level will help you, right? As if you are at least, have an email conversation or like connect with somebody on Facebook, or just get on Facebook and tell people about your job, or like just, comment on ads or whatever.
Comment on ads,
comment on, news stories, anything, local news stories that get like thousands of views and stuff like that. Just hop in the comment section and be like, check out my local business. It'll make you feel so good to just do that, it's hard. It's really hard. That's definitely like my lowest points in this is when it feels like business is slow. Even if there's money in my pocket, it still feels terribly slow. It feels bad. Like the anxiety comes.
Really?
Like, right. Because at least that's how I feel sometimes is if the wheels aren't turning a lot, it just, it can really, I'm not saying that I get depressed, but it definitely, I feel, I don't feel great about, the future when that happens.
I gotcha. So that I completely get what you're saying. I guess, I don't necessarily fear it because, I don't get like that anxiety feeling, but I think my reasoning is like, I look at how much I'm making over a year span.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as it's higher than my bills, I'm satisfied. If it's like double my bills, I'm happy and so on. But like, I feel like for the most part, as long as I reach my bills, I don't really get anxiety about it over a year span. But that's because we like take deposits, we take payments, stuff like that.
Right.
I assume you do the same thing.
Same.
Okay.
It's gotten better, of course. But it just helps with perspective to do that, is to like open up your contracts and be like, look at how many contracts. So open up your calendar and just be like, look at how busy you're going to be in June and July. You're going to melt your face off. What are you worried about?
Yeah, no. Trust me, when I see like 4 or 5 weddings in the same month, I'm like, dude, I hate this.
Try not to do that this year. Definitely way less weddings this year than last year.
Same. We upped our prices and went less weddings because we wanted to like actually be comfortable. Because last year I think we kind of like did too much, to be honest. Especially October. October I hated. There was just too much. Like I feel like we just finished editing weddings. Like literally in the past week finished our last wedding from last year.
Do you know how many total that you did? Like weddings?
57.
57.
Yeah.
And that's weddings of any size, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I just went through and I counted 39 out of my calendar.
See, that's really good.
My calendar, and I was like, that's pretty good.
The average wedding photographer shoots 21 weddings a year, and that's counting contracting weddings and second shooters.
Whoa.
Yeah. I looked up that statistic last year.
Rein it in then.
So yes, that is really good. That is really good.
That's, I think, another thing about running a business is like when you first start, you might work really, really, really hard. And then with time, you figure out ways to not necessarily cut corners, but just make it easy for yourself, easier for yourself down the road. Like
Well,
taking the larger deposits for me helped me out,
yeah, you told me that.
immensely to just kind of keep me, financially in a stable spot.
Yeah. Well, something that has helped us is I guess so like even when we first started, I wasn't really thinking. And I think that's why I'm so like such an advocate on the pricing thing is like when we first started, we charged near nothing. And I feel like that kind of bit us in the butt because we shot so many weddings, yes, but we were like overworked and underpaid, like quite
Yeah.
literally. And then like last year we did, as you know, we did a lot of pro bono stuff. So because of that, it kind of like made it even harder last year. And then going into this year, we were like, again, another thing AJ kind of brought up to me was like he was telling me how he was raising his prices and how like raising your prices is good and blah blah blah.
Hmm.
And then I had like flashbacks of like our very first bridal fair. There was a photographer videographer team that was a husband and wife, and they were like just across from us. And I ran into them, and I was talking with them, and they explained like we used to shoot because I was telling them like we're trying to hit 50 weddings this year, blah blah blah, and they were like, "Yeah, we used to do that. Now we shoot 10." And I was like, "Wow, how do
Yeah.
you even pay bills?" And they were like, "Well, we charge this price," and it was like so outrageous that I was just shocked. And then I was
Yeah.
like, "But theoretically, they're making as much as we're making just off 10 weddings." And then like
Right.
now that I've done that, I like look back at it and I'm like, I should have listened to them right there and then and just upped our prices. But yeah, so I think that's where we're like starting to learn that like we could just up our prices. Like you up your prices like even a third, and you don't have to shoot like one out of every 3 weddings that you normally would have
Right.
shot.
Right.
Which also random statistic, it's like most I think it's most entrepreneurs undervalue themselves by 30 to 3 times whatever they're charging. So by 30% to 3 times. So like for example,
Wow.
a third or like literally 3
Yeah.
times. Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy, right?
That is crazy. I wonder why that is. Is it because they're like
Cuz everybody,
mostly artists and like sensitive
I mean
and
that could
stuff
be
like
true.
that?
I think most entrepreneurs are people that want to do a craft that they were doing previously but they don't understand how to do business, so then they undercut their prices to just compete
Yeah.
rather than trying to increase the quality to be able to like rank with higher ranked people in that
Right.
field.
Right. I feel like as well they try to base it off of a little bit, of like salaries, basic salaries. So like
True.
some people feel like, oh, like when it comes down to it, I'm making like $20 to $30 an hour when it comes to this.
It's weird that people do that. Yeah.
That's more than what I would make, say, doing, um, insurance or like customer service
Yeah.
work or like whatever the job is. Because that's kind of how I felt when I was getting contracted by iWin Exposures when I left iWin Exposures. He still contracted me for a few weddings, and he's like, "Well, I can pay you, I think he paid me like $350 for 8 hours." And I was like, in my brain at the time, starting out, that was totally reasonable to me because I was like, that's pretty good money per hour. But I just didn't really, I didn't really think of it that, well, that pays me that much. Then I have to, find something else of equal amount so I can make my bills, like you have to like make your bills. So I feel like you have to upcharge for all the time that you spend
Not
not
shooting.
shooting.
Yeah. Well, that's actually it's funny cuz when I first got into like doing this full time, my thought process actually was very similar to yours and where I said like, well, I think I was making like 15 an hour at the time and I was like, well, if I make more than that an hour, I'm fine.
Yeah.
But I will say this, I had already like kind of done my own stuff like flipped cars and stuff like that. So I was adding hours that I knew I was going to be working even if I wasn't shooting. Um, but like even then, I was looking at it and I was like, well, if I charge $100 an hour on a wedding day, I'm still doing like $20 an hour on average. It's still more than that. Blah blah blah. But like today, I don't think about it that way. Now I think about it as like per job,
Right.
which
Right.
I wonder when I shifted there.
I think it's at some time after you shift from, that part-time situation to full-time, like it takes up most of your time, right? Because I was, still working at MetLife and still being a photographer part-time because the money didn't, the money at that point in time was good. But I wasn't getting enough, like there wasn't enough weddings on the horizon to fully cut off MetLife. So you feel it's like a stepping stone,
Mm-hmm.
having the part-time situation going into full-time. And then once you're comfortable with that situation, you can really hit the gas pedal on it
Yeah. Yeah.
and start to charge.
How would you say you're booking your weddings currently, as far as like what advertising strategy is working best for you, if you don't
Mhm.
mind sharing? And then I'll ask the second question afterwards.
Um, my strategy is always mixed as far as what I do. You never put your like
Eggs in
eggs
one
in
basket.
one
Yeah.
basket in that regard. I guess you could if you wanted to, like just spend the $4,000 a year on the knot and
I was
get
actually gonna bring that up earlier.
and
The quality of the people that message you on the knot is not always top tier
right.
because the hot press where you just press it and you like send a quick message leads to people that just it's similar like Facebook Marketplace. Like, is that still available? Like
Exactly.
it's like they click it, but they don't actually care.
Yeah.
So that leads to us getting very cold leads. And even when we reach out to them, it's still super cold. Even though we're paying for warm leads, we're getting cold leads. Sorry, continue.
But some people do great with it.
Yeah, well, because
Yeah.
they're used to cold leads.
Right.
I
Right.
would
They're good
say
at converting them.
I would say that's one thing that AJ is very good at, and I can't wait to have him on here. But yes, yes, I agree.
So I like to do a few things. Facebook is one of the biggest one is make sure that you have a proper, presence on Facebook and you're utilizing all of the local groups to reach everybody because, if you have a Facebook page, that's one thing, but you only reach the people that you follow and the people that you advertise to. Um, and that's even if they're, looking, if their eyes are open, they might just fly right by it, you know? So the groups are always helpful because there's always people like looking for a photographer for a certain date and you can, throw your hat in and that helps, to have like a really, really good message when you do that. Cause a lot of people just throw in like a URL. I found
I would
writing.
never do that.
Do you do the
Yeah,
URL thing?
just put my URL and leave it.
Yeah.
Continue.
Sometimes like I just see the URL and I feel like I have to write something more. And then I have a pretty good paragraph. And you know what? The more words kind of help.
Oh, I'm
sometimes.
sure. 100% sure on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that goes across
Mhm.
like any communications with the potential clients is really, really take a moment to personalize it. You can, your first message can kind of be kind of canned, but if you're like commenting to somebody directly or direct messaging somebody, personalizing it, and adding like a little flair and like saying like, hey, your
Yeah.
wedding's in Bellevue. Tell me about your venue or, your venue's great, great choice, complimenting them. Complimenting always helps, brown nosing.
I
Of course.
agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
yeah. And then I rely on ads. So I use Google Ads and I use my website and SEO.
May I ask how much you spend on Google Ads?
I think it's around 100 every couple weeks or so.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not too much. Sometimes it gets sucked up really fast.
I was gonna say someone was just telling me that they spend 2,500 on Google Ads a month.
Oh no, 2,500 a month.
That's what I said. She
How
will be
many
on here
weddings
soon.
are they booking?
She's not in the wedding industry. She's a real
Oh.
estate agent.
She's a real estate agent. Okay, well that's a little different.
It's more high ticket. I will say
Yeah.
that they make more than we do, obviously, per
Yeah,
job. But
yeah.
at the same time, I think that's a little high. That's my opinion. I don't know. I don't know how the real estate market is like cost per
Right.
click on Google, I guess. But continue. Sorry.
I think the real estate market actually is not great as far as
From some non-professionals in the real estate market, I agree with you.
Right? No, but from what I've heard, it's not easy out there. So 2,500 actually sounds like
justifiable
in this situation that we have right now. My wife's always on Zillow trying to find a house, and she's always very aware of like the housing market and what's available. And as time goes on, less and less houses are available.
Yes, I agree.
Especially in our price range. So
it's the first time like home buyer range, which is like I think right now in Omaha it's probably like 200 to like 350 is like the first time home buyers range. And there's like they're literally just sold instantaneously.
Wow. My house was $100,000.
I wish we paid more than double that.
But it's a 100-year-old shack.
You have a very nice home, in my opinion, from it's just cute. Seeing the outside. It is cute. I agree.
Yeah, but Google Ads helps. Having a great website, having URLs that that show that you're serious. You know, anything that you can do to show that you're serious helps.
Rather than, and I have seen this way too many times, and I genuinely am a stickler for never doing this, having your Facebook page as your website. No. just, I'm going to be honest with you. A website is $13 for a year for the cheapest bare minimum
URL,
one.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, it's worth every penny because you do not look serious if it's just a Facebook page. Right. My opinion.
I agree. Yeah. It's well, and you're showing that you're not serious by not reaching 100% of, the customer that you could be reaching, with having like an actual website that everybody can go to. Because if it's on Facebook, I guess,
you can still find it.
You can still find it and you don't have to really log in that I know of, but Facebook doesn't make it that easy.
Well, so here's what I would say. So I have always had this stance just because when you look at a website versus looking at a Facebook page, there is such a big difference. Oh, yeah. But then also I actually had a bride that we went to dinner with. I can't remember how long ago, but she told me, she told me that she was 3 people were like her top 3 on Facebook. She like posted something, 3 people messaged. We were one of them. And of the other 2 people, they only had Facebook websites. And she literally made the decision off of the fact that we had a normal website. And I laughed and I was like, I've always told people that they need a real website. And she was like, personally, I think if you don't have a real website, you're not a professional. And when she said that, I was like, well, then I'm clearly not the only one that thinks this. And if brides are thinking it, you're not going to be able to book very much business without having a real site.
Right. Facebook page shows that it's temporary. You can make a Facebook.
True.
You can shut a Facebook page down. There's no commitment. It's free. It doesn't show that you're 100% serious about the situation.
I agree. Okay. Last question.
Okay.
If you could say something to your younger self to help you get either here quicker or further than here quicker.
Yeah.
What would you say to yourself? And say it to the camera. Act like that's you.
You know that Shia LaBeouf video where he's like, just do it. That. If seriously, just if you want to do something, don't wait so long, don't wait.
That is a really good one.
I know we can't give that advice. Like there's no such thing as a time machine. If I could whisper something in the ear of my younger self, who knows if it would have even helped. I just, I wish that I would have started this journey sooner, because I myself, I'm 10 years older than you. And I look at yourself, at your age already where you're at. And I was like, wow, if I would have done that then, holy cow, me now would be like bigger, stronger, better me.
Yeah. Well, I still think you are better. I will say that. Like when it comes to quality of like how you can use a camera and like your skill level, you are better without a doubt.
That comes with the 10
experience.
Years of experience.
Yes.
It's like I've just been glued to a camera for the last forever.
I agree. I think so the reason I asked that question is I'm just thinking of the people that might be watching this. They could be in a boat trying to
Yeah.
figure out what to do next. And I feel like giving that advice might help. And I think we've already had this conversation, but like the way that I see it is if we can help people get to where we are faster than we did, that just means that we're doing it right.
Right.
Because like from my point of view, like biologically, we are here to pass on information to help people get places quicker. If we're not doing that, we're not succeeding. So
Yeah. Yeah. That is that's tough. I kick myself a lot when I think about how many times along the way that I could have just taken that camera that I had. I had a camera sitting around the whole time. I had a Canon 7D for years that I didn't really use for very much. And just, do that instead of going back to another job, instead of working for somebody else. It's like when you buy a house, you think, oh my gosh, this is so much better. I have my own space. Um, why didn't I do this sooner?
yeah,
I
yeah.
rented for 10 years. And I was like, why didn't I do this sooner? I worked for other jerks for 10 years. Why didn't I do this sooner?
I think I did have the benefit of like my parents literally just telling me like literally how you just said just do it, like
Yeah.
not even joking. I think my parents were like in my ear constantly being like, if this is what you want to do, just do it. And then like I also like I actually told AJ this the other day, but like I see him very much as like a future me. Whenever he gives me advice, I'm like, okay, well, if he's telling me to do this, I should probably listen. And like in the back of my head, I'm like, I know I don't want to listen because that means he's right. But at the same time, like he knows what he's talking
Yeah.
about. So like I think growing up with like my parents telling me that almost helped me like shift my perspective quicker, where I was like, okay, I should listen to more people that know what they're saying. And like even you, like when you show us how to use a camera and like when we fucking watched your video and took advice from you, like I mean, we try to absorb as much information as possible. And I think that's actually the way that the generations are currently going, is like most
Yeah.
of them want to figure out how they can do what they want to do forever.
Hmm.
It's just a matter of starting.
I think
Yeah.
entrepreneurship is a lot easier nowadays
Oh
for,
yeah.
for people than it was as well for me, like 6 years ago. When I look at it, it just feels like there's a lot more infrastructure set up for people to just hop into that, especially with uh, TikTokers and podcasting and what's the other one? Gaming. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, gaming
And,
is
and it's a lot
huge.
more accepted now. Like now, if you
Yeah,
say I want to be a professional YouTuber, like that's a thing.
right,
Like
right.
it wasn't a thing though, like so many years ago. So I
No,
think that's there's definitely been a shift.
yeah, yeah. So maybe that's one of the reasons why I didn't hold on. I didn't like hop on as soon as I did. It took getting enough contracts in my pocket, for
That
me
makes
to
sense though.
to leave my other job. Is I had to keep my eye on that number, and once that number was higher than what I was making working full time at an insurance company, answering the phones for 40 hours a week, I was like, well, there it is.
So
You can do it.
I had multiple benefits in this scenario. Okay. First of all, I was making a lot less money. I told you I was making like 15 an hour. So
Yeah.
like 24,000 a year. It wasn't much. It wasn't much. So, and honestly, in like 3 years, that would be minimum wage for the record. I don't know if you've looked at minimum wage, but as of the first of this year is 12.50 or 12. It's 12 exactly. Insane.
Wow.
Anyways, where was I going with that? So that was the first thing that I think I had going for me in that specific situation, but also that I had like been flipping cars before that. So I had already had like the thought process of like I need more time to spend on the business to make more money with X business to
Hmm.
leave this job. Like that was like already in my head. So like it wasn't a matter of like I need to see the number then leave. It was like I need to leave so I can get that number now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I I do things I'm very cautious.
No, I should have been more cautious. I will say
Yeah.
probably the most uncautious thing I did was going full time into this because so like a little bit of my origin story. Not even joking. I had $10,000 in my bank account and I quit my job and I was like, I'm gonna do photography full time. And then I bought all the gear, which came out to like $9,500. And then I was like, so I have $500 for my $1,000 mortgage this month. And I need to figure this out today. So, like immediately I just started contracting through people, second shooting. I think that month I brought in enough to pay the mortgage and the next mortgage. And then I just did that every month until I was like, okay, I can pass this on. But like, very uncautious, but I had the faith that I was going to be able to pull it off.
Exactly. And you did. Yeah.
We can say that. Well, that's it. That's all I wanted to talk about. We kind of covered a lot. I'm actually happy with how that went.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Do you want to say bye?
Do you have a close?
Nope. This is literally the first episode.
Like
so I guess
just gonna fade to black.
Thank you for watching. And if you have questions, actually send them to me because we do want to answer more questions in the future. And as well as if you want to be on the podcast and you're an entrepreneur, I'd love to have you on.
Thanks for having me, Eric.
No problem.